Ladies and gentlemen, we will make a start on tonight's meeting, and welcome to everyone in the gallery and also those listening live or the recording of tonight's meeting, Ordinary Council meeting. Council acknowledges the traditional owners of these lands, waters and skies, the Wadawurrung people. We acknowledge and respect their continuing connections to their lands, waters, skies, culture and the contribution they make to the life and spirit of our community. We pay respect to their past and present elders and extend this respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. Mr. CEO, we have all councillors present. Do we have any apologies?
Through you, Mayor, we do. Stuart Hanson and Tim Crawford are both apologies this evening. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Before we proceed, I have a matter I want to present to Council, and I was just wondering if you would allow.
Yeah, I'm happy to allow that, and I'll listen to hear that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you, Mayor, following advice I received yesterday from the Point Lonsdale Lighthouse Reserve Stage 2 Development Project Manager, I'd like to ask the Chair to admit an urgent business item for consideration as part of tonight's agenda. In accordance with Clause 95 of the Borough of Queenscliff Governance Rules, business must not be admitted by the Chair unless it relates to or arises out of a matter which has arisen since distribution of the agenda, and it cannot be safely or conveniently deferred until the next Council meeting, and the Council resolves to admit an item considered to be urgent business. The matter I'd like to bring to Council has arisen following the decision of the Point Lonsdale Lighthouse Reserve Project Stage 2 Development Project Control Group at a meeting on Monday the 22nd of July 2024 to revise the scope of the project set out in the current agreement between the Borough of Queenscliff and the Department of Environment, Energy and Climate Action. I'm seeking to have the matter admitted tonight because the process to formally vary the agreement needs to be completed by the 30th of September 2024. A decision tonight will allow Council officers, if Council accepts the Project Control Group proposal and the recommendation in the agenda paper, to commence the process to request a variation to the grant agreement.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Just to clarify, so this matter has arisen since the distribution of the agenda, and then it can't be obviously deferred till the next Council meeting, is that correct?
Yes, Mayor. If Council considers it tonight, it allow the PCG to continue work on the project and allow the variation to be considered by the Department prior to the project completion date. I'm also recommending that if Council does resolve to admit the matter, that it be considered following item 14.2, Point Lonsdale Lighthouse Reserve Project Update number 7.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. CEO. I understand that in accordance with the governance rules, Council must resolve to admit an item to be considered as urgent business. As such, I am happy to move that Council resolves to admit the item. Do I have a seconder for that? Seconder, Councillor Tolhurst. Any discussion, given that we are going to discuss the item later in the agenda? There's no discussion. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. So moved. Thank you, Mr. CEO.
Mr. Mayor, we do have a draft of the material that we want Council to consider, which we can pass out to the gallery if you like. And just as we do that, Councillor Tolhurst and Councillor Grout made me aware that I've misunderstood one of the directions of the PCG, and that in the table 1 on page 5 of the report, the restoration of the lighthouse surrounds is not an aspect of the project that will be removed, and so I just wanted to note that as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. CEO. Okay, we will move back to the agenda. Item 3. Conflicts of interest disclosures. Councillors, does anyone have a conflict of interest?
Yes, thank you. I'll have to preclude myself from the confidential meeting later in the afternoon, in the meeting regarding one of the proposed beneficiaries of the grants.
Thank you, Councillor Grigger. I also have a conflict in the same item, which is 19.1 confidential, as my wife is involved with a couple of those committees. So we have those two people we will remove ourselves when the item comes up. Any other conflicts, councillors? No. Officers? No? Thank you. Leave of absence of councillor. We have no one on absence. Item 4.1, Councillor Grout leave of absence on 16th July 2024. The Chief Executive Officer received advice from Councillor Michael Grout indicating that he will be taking a leave of absence from Council from the 2nd of August to the 2nd of September 2024. Councillor's recommendation that Councillor grant a leave of absence to Councillor Michael Grout from 2nd of August 24 to 2nd of September 24. Can I get someone to move that? Move Councillor Tolhurst, a seconder for that. Councillor Minty, any discussion on that? If there's no discussion, all those in favour? Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Unless you don't want to go.
Yeah, unless you vote against
So that was unanimous, Jackie. Thank you. Item 5, public question time. 5.1 question status update. No public questions are outstanding. 5.2 public questions. Councillors, we have 4 public questions tonight. The first question is from the QCA. David, are you happy for? Yep, thank you. Public question number 1 from the QCA. Page 33 and 34 of the Audit and Risk Report held on June 11, 2024 and before passage of this Council's draft budget, it was noted that Council has spent $501,000 on the ICT transformation project with $394,000 from grants. However, as per Australian accounting standards, these expenses cannot be capitalised and must be reclassified as operating expenses. This adjustment will be made at the year end after consulting with auditors. Although this will not affect the cash result and the underlying result on the recurring basis, it will negatively impact the LGPRF measurement. The question, can Council explain the implications this will have on the budget and the LGPRF measure, and in light of this adjustment, are Councillors comfortable with the adjusted financial position of Council's operating result for 2004-25? David, I'm actually going to refer to our Manager of Finance and ICT Services, Gihan, to answer that one. Thank you, Gihan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Connolly, for that question. The details of this accounting adjustment can be found on pages 3, 5 and 6 of the quarterly financial report presented at the Council meeting in April this year. This adjustment is an accounting adjustment involving a reclassification of expenses. It has no impact on the cash flow, Council's financial position or the 24-25 budget. Had this expense been capitalized, it would have been amortized over a couple of years. Instead, it has been fully charged to the 23-24 financial year as an operating expenses, though these expenses have been incurring over a couple of years. As noted in the quarterly financial report, once we reclassify it as operating expenses, yes, it will have an impact on 23-24 underlying measurement as per the LGPRF definition. Thank you.
You got that? Okay, David? It makes no difference to our cash flow. Reporting.
Yes, if you only look at it, the expense, that is that 501,000, yes, because we had to reclassify it as operating expenses. But there's another side, the grant income that we have received, 394,000. Due to the nature of that grant income, we can't reclassify it as operating. So there's a mismatch already. So yes, it's accounting adjustment. So there are accounting standards we have to follow when it comes to the capitalization of such expenses. So if you look at the quarterly financial report, even we have given those technical definitions, that's what we have to look at it. So because of that, we can't really continue to consider it as a capital expenditure. So if we had considered it as a capital expenditure, it would not have had impact on the LGPRF measurement. So as I said, because of that accounting adjustment, it has an impact, but again, in reality, it's not having any cash flow impact on RSR.
So when will that come into effect? Won't be recorded or altered in the current budget or in the board book?
Yeah, it's nothing to do with the next year, the current year, that is 24-25 budget. This will get recorded in our 2024-23-24 financial statement, which we will finalize very soon, which we will present to the council in September.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Gihan. Thanks, David. Yes. Yeah. Sorry, I'm talking on behalf of councillors because it doesn't affect our cash flow. It does affect the reporting. Yes. Okay, thank you, David. You're happy for me to read your personal question? Yep. Question 2 from David Conley. There's been concerns expressed about Seacroft in Chestnut Hunt Street, an individually listed heritage building, and also the environmental impacts on the Murray Road subdivision site and the swales that have high environmental values. Both are subject to conditions of permit. Some concerns have already been raised previously in the media. Has Council recorded or noted any possible breaches of conditions? And if that is the case, who is managing the compliances and enforcement of conditions for such properties and possibly other properties that have significant heritage and environmental protections? Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you, David, without knowing what the specific concerns expressed about Seacroft are, I'll need to work with council officers to review and investigate and find out what they are. I am aware that works occurred in the swale drain in front of the property at 61 to 75 Murray Road that council officers are investigating that. In answer to your question, the planning team manages the investigation of alleged breaches of planning permit conditions and any alleged breaches of the Planning Environment Act 1987.
In relation to, I think the condition in Seacroft was the landscape.
Okay.
I'll follow that up.
Now that we know that, we'll follow that up, David. Thank you. Public question number 3 is from Christine Rees, so I will read out her question. Recent destruction of swale salt marsh along 61 to 75 Murray Road, an area that has significant landscape overlay Schedule 1, vegetation protection overlay and vegetation protection overlay Schedule 1. According to permit conditions, before works start, a native vegetation protection fence must be erected around all patches of native vegetation and scattered trees to be retained on site and within the Murray Road Reserve. This fence must be erected around the patch of native vegetation at a minimum distance of 1 metre from the retained native vegetation. The fence must be constructed of star pickets, chain fence, or similar to the satisfaction of the responsible authority. The fence must remain in place until all works are completed to the satisfaction of the responsible authority. The layout of fencing around retained native vegetation within the Murray Road Reserve must prevent any vehicle access into or through the vegetated swale other than within the footprint of the approved road entry point. So the question is, why has the Council allowed the destruction of swale salt marsh in Murray Road Reserve when it clearly states in the permit that the native vegetation is to be protected and to not allow vehicular access, trenching or soil excavation? So we're just going to hold the response till because the response will be the same as question 4. So I'm going to read out question 4, then we'll have the response to both those 2 questions. Jane, question 4? Yep. Sorry, Jane, we need you to come up so everyone will hear. Thank you.
So this is about 62 to 75 Murray Road, and I attached photos in the 2 emails. In the planning permit, there is allowance for removal of 0.006 of a hectare of vegetation, and in the plans done by Ecologici, that was just the area of the entranceway, the new crossover. So, and I attached a picture of his plan. That on the viewing the site, it is seen that another section of the swale has been drained and excavated to allow for water main and power trenches to be buried in the swale. How was this extra area outside the fences of the development allowed to be cleared? It is an area of approximately, I'd kindly say 40 metres by 30, but it could be 60 by 10. And I've given an aerial picture with the measurement of the swale and a picture of the drained swale. So at no stage have I seen any plan or information that says those trenches would go outside the boundary of the development, which is in the permit. It's all to be contained within those fences.
Okay, thank you, Jane. And maybe if you've can email us that updated you can go with that. Okay, thank you, Jane. Mr. CEO, your response. This was obviously for questions 3 and 4.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Jane and Christine. I think the important thing to say is Council hasn't allowed the vegetation clearing. We certainly haven't permitted it. It's occurred, and we acknowledge that, and so we're now investigating what appears to have been something undertaken without council consent, and then that will guide our next direction, our next actions once we establish all the facts.
I went with Christine Rees to the site today and talked to the manager and the water person, and they said all along that it was always planned and the council knew that the trenches were being dug in the swale and it was all approved. So we'll wait to see what you come out of that.
Yes.
Thank you, Jane. And thank you, everyone. Councillors, item 6, confirmation of minutes of the previous meeting. 6.1, recommendation that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting on 26 June 2024 as amended be confirmed as an accurate record. Councillor Grigor, do you have a slight change?
Yeah, slight changes. Notice there's a correction required on page 85 of last month's minutes. Points 16.4, fair access policy. The resolution was reads in the minutes as Councillor Michael Grout and seconded by Isabella Tolhurst. It was myself that moved the motion, not Councillor Grout.
And Councillor Tolhurst seconded.
Tolhurst is the correction, yep.
So you're moving that, Councillor
Yes,
Grout?
thank you.
Oh, sorry, Grigor. Someone to second that? Councillor Tolhurst, thank you. All those in favour? Thank you, so moved. Councillors, item 6.3, Audit and Risk Committee meeting on 11th of June 24. Recommendation that the minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee meeting on 11th June 2024 as distributed be confirmed as an accurate record. Could I get someone to move that? Move Councillor Grigor. I'm happy to second that. I was at the meeting. All those in favour? Yep, thank you. So moved. Thank you. Item 7, councillors, the record of informal meetings of councillors. There is a record of the informal meetings of councillors is included to the adjunct to item 7. Sorry? Oh. Yes, I do apologise. I went from 6.1 to 6.3. So we'll go back to 6.2, the ordinary council meeting on 26 June 2024, confidential minutes. A copy of these previous confidential minutes from the ordinary council meeting on 26 June 2024. Confidential minutes was distributed to councillors under a separate cover. The recommendation, councillors, that the confidential minutes of the ordinary meeting of council on 26 June 2024 as distributed be confirmed as an accurate record. Can I get someone to move that? Move Councillor Tolhurst, seconded by Councillor Grigor. All those in favour? Thank you, so moved. Thank you, Jackie. Well done. Now remind me, did we move?
Audit and risk, yep.
For which item?
6.3. 6.3.
We've done audit. No, I second the audit and risk.
Yes.
Yep, and that was, passed. Thank you.
70.
Item 7. As mentioned, that the record of informal meetings of councillors as presented in adjunct to item 7B noted. Can I get someone to move that, please? Moved by Councillor Tolhurst, seconded. Councillor Minty, thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. Item 8, notice of motion. 8.1, no notice of motion are outstanding. 8.2, motion of notice number 2024-592, investigating a more frequent council news publication. In accordance with the Borough of Queensland's governance rules, notice was received by the Chief Executive Officer from Councillor Tolhurst of the following motion on the 17th of July 2024, and I'll hand over to Councillor Tolhurst to talk to her motion.
Thank you, Councillor Ebbels. I think as per the governance rules, I need to just read the motion out before speaking to it, so I'll do just that. And the recommendation is that Council creates a report investigating the viability of creating and distributing a monthly, 6-weekly or bi-monthly council news publication in print for residents and ratepayers, including A, detailing the costs and resources required with comparative analysis to current print communications model. B, suggesting key content areas, including but not limited to council advocacy updates, community grant and funding opportunities, business news and a what's on section. C, reviewing the publications distributed in municipalities who consistently receive high scores in the customer satisfaction survey for communication. D, considering a range of distribution options for such a publication, including via mail to ratepayers, email and in local shops and venues. E, making a recommendation on the merits of pursuing a trial for a more frequent council news publication in print. Item 2 is presents this draft report to Council by October 2024 in its ordinary meeting of Council.
So Councillor Tolhurst, you're moving that motion?
I do,
And
thank you.
I call for a seconder. Councillor Minty, thank you.
Thank
Councillor
you.
Tolhurst, would you like to speak to the motion?
I would, thank you, Mayor Ebbels. So the reasoning for this motion is really captured extensively in the background and the context set to it, but in summary, that is that there are a number of drivers that have led to a need for Council to re-examine how we communicate with the public and the frequency at which this happens to ensure our community can participate meaningfully in Council business and decision making. Between hearing from local business people and organisations at Council's recent local trader forum, considering how we respond to years of customer satisfaction or community satisfaction survey results, but also those that will come to us in August 2024, listening to community members at listening posts and a variety of other public engagements, and considering the loss or the impact of the loss of the borough's hyperlocal news publications, such as the RIP and Queenscliff Herald, I believe that there is a need to act. So this motion is also consistent with Council's commitments already made through its community vision and council plan, particularly those that sit in the local economy portfolio, which I currently hold. The motion proposes no commitment of funds, it's just investigative work at this stage, but it seeks to provide the business case for change or for continuing as we are if that is what the business case reveals, but that this can be considered by the current council and provided to the next council as well for consideration. It's about being a responsive council, solutions focused and open to trialling different modes of doing things, and if adopted tonight, I do look forward to seeing the results of such an investigation and how council communications can better engage and serve our community.
Thank you, Councillor Tolhurst. Councillor Minty, you second the motion. Would you like to speak to it?
I would, thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to support Councillor's motion, Councillor Tolhurst's motion, and the sentiments regarding the need for such a publication. I can say that over the recent past that there have been many people that I've engaged with who have also said that they miss a local publication dealing with local issues, and they are finding it now complicated to get the detail that they need is to find out what is actually happening in the community. There have been many people, and the latest census actually indicated that transition to digital is on the move. However, it is obviously slower than what is expected, and we're now over 57% who would like to receive it in that format. So I would suggest that a mixed format would work, as well as a straight printed publication, all printed or digital. But I will support the motion. I think it's extraordinarily important that our community is fully informed about what we are doing.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Minty. Would anyone like to speak against the motion?
Yes, I'd like to speak against the motion. I feel like putting this motion up at this time of the council period, just before council elections, actually tying up resources for the staff that actually have to go and do this work. We are, and then committing to having the report delivered in October during a the caretaker period, and then making a a time for the report to be considered for the councillors is a total waste of time. No, on merit, it's actually a good idea. We know we did not support, the last council did not support the local media, and this is the unintended consequences of not having the, a good vehicle to drive our communication within our community that holds it dearly. So, I think by, putting this extra strain on the current resources, which was not budgeted with the staff time in this financial year, which we've passed, I think it's just wasting the valuable time of council officers.
Thank you, Councillor Griego. Councillor Grad, you wish to speak?
I'll speak for the motion. Yeah, I think quite a lot of people in our community have really missed the RIP. That was a great source of information about what was happening in the council, and even when I went on the council as a councillor, I still found it quite a useful source of information about what's been going on. So I think we missed the RIP. I think the Borough Bites, which has been coming out quarterly with the rates notice, is providing useful information, except that some of it's not timely because the events have already happened before we find out about them. So the Borough Business News, however, is quite a good initiative, a recent initiative, and I understand it comes out of the trader forums and meetings that we've had. I think that's quite a useful initiative. The research for those articles is being done, and I think the distribution of it has been quite effective. It's a narrow group of the borough that receive that. So this investigation, which will look at whether there is a need for having a more timely supply of information to all of our residents and visitors, and investigate the best form of distributing it, whether it be by email or by print. Print not necessarily delivered to the door, but it could be located as the Battering Times is quite a useful, would be quite useful concepts to investigate. And I think it really is incumbent on our council to provide this sort of vehicle for providing information about what's going on in town.
Thank you, Councillor Gratt, and I certainly thank Councillor Tolhurst for her motion, and I do take on board the remarks by Councillor Griego about the timing. I think the timing, come October council meeting, I think we'd probably be accepting a report, or noting a report. No decision would be made actually on that, and I think it will provide information for the new council as they develop their new council plan. What forms of communication the new council would like to take also when moving forward in their new term. So I'll be voting in favour. So we have a mover and a seconder. All those in favour? And against? Thank you. So passed.
For a division.
Called for a division. Thank you. Jackie, you're right to go? Yep. Recommendation, I'll call for all those in favour. It's Councillor Tolhurst, Councillor Minty, Councillor Grout, Councillor Ebbels, and against is Councillor Grigel. Thank you. Thank you, councillors. Councillors, item 9, functions attended. There is a list there. The recommendation that the functions attended report be received. If I could get someone to move that, please. Move Councillor Minty, seconded Councillor Tolhurst. All those in favour? Thank you, so passed. Item 10, the Chief Executive Officer. I'll hand over to the Chief Executive Officer for his report.
Thank you, Mayor, and I think it's a fairly extensive report this time, so I won't go through too many details, but just happy to note that there's some common concerns and some common language emerging across the local government sector around financial sustainability. It's the most coordinated and determined I've seen the sector in terms of making sure that the services and the ability to keep servicing our community is understood and supported by both federal and state government. So on that, I'll take the report as read and happy to take any questions.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. CEO. Councillors, do we have any questions for the CEO? Yeah, Councillor Tolhurst.
Just thank you, Mayor Ebbels. Just on when councils can anticipate hearing back on the submission or hearing any updates as to its efficacy and impact?
The federal inquiry, there's no time, and this tends to happen in federal inquiries, that they don't really set an end date, but we're anticipating that something before the end of this year, hopefully. Yep.
And I think note that the state is also doing a similar piece of work also. Any other questions for the CEO? Councillor Grigel.
What was the cost of the 4-day trip to Canberra for the National General Assembly, and sort of was that money for value for the ratepayers?
Might take that one on notice, Councillor Grigel, to do the question justice.
Yep. Okay, thank you. Any further questions for the CEO? No? Can I get someone move the Council receives the Chief Executive Officer report for July 2024? Moved by Councillor Tolhurst, seconded by Councillor Grigel. All those in favour? Thank you, so moved. Thank you, Mr. CEO. Item 14, Heritage Planning and Infrastructure, the Plan Activity Report. Our Senior Manager of Planning is away at the moment, so I'm handing over to the CEO.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. Mayor, just before we do, Council does consider the Planning Activity Report, I'd just like to bring the Councillor's attention to an update. And just to advise that Council has received the VCAT decision for PA 2022131 or 7 Henry Street, Queenscliff. That's noted in Table D, VCAT applications. So just in terms of some detail, VCAT handed down its decision on the 8th of July. VCAT has varied the Council decision but approved the development. VCAT has sought to increase the front setback of the first floor deck as the variation to the Council decision.
Thank you.
Guys, happy to take any questions on any other matters in the report.
Yep. Councillors, any questions in regard to the planning report? If not, no, it's just nice to see that the numbers are coming down slowly and we're moving through the applications. Thank you. Can I get someone to move that we accept the planning report? I will actually move that, my portfolio, happy to move that. Yes, happy to move with the change as explained by the CEO in regard to 7 Henry Street. I'll move that. Someone to second that? Thank you, Councillor Grigel. All those in favour? Thank you. Item 14.2, Point Lonsdale Lighthouse Reserve Project Update. Abby, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Councillors. The purpose of this report is to provide an update on the capital work projects Council is currently undertaking at the Point Lonsdale Lighthouse Reserve. The recommendation is that Council notes the Point Lonsdale Lighthouse Reserve project update for July 2024, and I'll take the report as read and happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Councillor. Do we have any questions for Abby, given that we are obviously going to be speaking in the next item in more detail about the grant variation, but any questions in regards to the report that's been presented tonight? If not, I can get someone that, the recommendation that Council notes the Point Lonsdale Lighthouse Reserve project update for July 2024. Can I get someone to move that? Move Councillor Tolhurst, seconded by Councillor Minty. Sorry, Councillor Grant, you're just a bit slow off the mark. All those in favour? Thank you, so moved. We now move to item 14.3, the Point Lonsdale Lighthouse Reserve grant variation. Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, councillors, for admitting this item. I'll spend a minute or two just giving some background. For those in the gallery who aren't aware, Council received a grant to do some additional works or stage 2 works at the Point Lonsdale Lighthouse Reserve, and that was a grant of $1 million. In 2023, Council established a project control group, and through the second half of 2023 and the first half of 2024, that group has been working through some detailed planning and such as a landscape plan, some engineering assessments of works on site, and have through that been constantly sort of monitoring the costs of the projects and the approvals and support of the agencies through. I was advised early this week or yesterday by the project manager that the project control group, having considered advice from a number of parties, including Heritage Victoria, DECA, the Wadawurrung Traditional Owners Corporation, even council officers, had taken all those inputs, the inputs of the project manager, and resolved to amend or revise the scope that was included in the grant agreement from May 2023. Because of this, and because of one of the milestones that are in the existing grant, when I became aware of that information, I determined that we need to keep the project moving, but also to act quickly to request a formal variation from the Department of Environment, Energy and Climate Action to make sure that by the 20th of September we had some certainty about the project itself, and that we could allow the project control group to continue to work on this important project. So I've prepared a bit of a report that provides a bit more detail on some of that background, but the recommendation that I'm putting to the councillors is that Council submits a request for variation to the Department of Environment, Energy and Climate Action regarding the Point Lonsdale Lighthouse Reserve grant agreement, requesting an amendment to the primary actions set out in the grant agreement to reflect the scope proposed by the Point Lonsdale Lighthouse Reserve Project Control Group in July 2024, and an extension to the project completion date from 30th of September 2024 to the 31st of May 2026. I also think, and I'm sure the councillors will have some words to say on this, that it's important that we get an update. So the second part of the recommendation is that the council requests the Point Lonsdale Lighthouse Reserve Project Control Group to prepare a project update subject to the approval of the grant variation by DECA for the use across council's communication platforms. So that's the recommendation to council.
Yeah, we do have a recommendation.
I wish to put forward an alternate motion.
Certainly, Councillor Tolhurst.
That is that Council A submits a request for variation to the Department of Environment, Energy and Climate Action to the Point Lonsdale Lighthouse Reserve Grant Agreement 2 A, amend the primary actions set out in the grant agreement so they reflect the scope proposed by the Lighthouse Reserve PCG in July 2024, and B, to extend the project completion date to 30 May 2026. That B, request the Point Lonsdale Lighthouse Reserve Project Control Group to prepare a project update subject to the approval of the grant variation by DECA for use by key project stakeholders. And C, requests officers to use this report to provide an update on the council website and other council-owned channels, noting the project control group's work up to this point, project progress, the recommended change of scope, next steps, and reiterating as above that all this remains subject to DECA approval.
Thank you, Councillor Tolhurst. Do we have a seconder for Councillor Tolhurst's motion? Second, Councillor Grout. Thank you, Councillor Tolhurst. Would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, just briefly, thank you, Mayor, and that's that this grant variation request is the culmination of actually quite a lot of work by the PCG. A grant variation on its own may not strike the community as that, but it certainly is the case. And the PCG is the governance body collectively responsible for monitoring the risks, quality, scope and timelines of this project. So though it's been slow moving and frustrating at times, it does reflect ongoing collaboration and active participation by 2 community reps, 2 councillors, council staff, our DECA representatives, the state member and our project managers. So it is a big and ongoing collaborative effort. There's more work to go, but this grant variation sets a clear way forward for maintaining and improving the heritage of the site while seeking to provide community benefit through proposed power provision to some of the buildings and improvements to the surrounds of the lighthouse.
Thank you, Councillor Tolhurst. Councillor Grout, as a seconder, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, and just to say that, remind everybody that the CEO clarified at the start of the meeting on this item that the information in the table provided in the notes will be adjusted in the minutes to reflect what the PCG actually agreed to in that meeting as referred. So the Point Lonsdale Lighthouse surrounds is actually retained in the current or proposed scope, I should say. But I think the process has been rather lengthy to this point in time, and the decisions that the PCG have made along the way have been based to some great extent on the quantities of surveying dollar numbers that became attached to the proposal that was originally agreed to in the grant funding. So there's some data behind these changes. It's not just somebody's wish list. In the end, we aren't going to exceed the $1 million grant funding that we've been allocated, but we do need to renegotiate the what we're actually going to use that money to do. And that table of what we're going to do is going to be provided in the minutes of this meeting, and this is the table that I think Councillor Tolhurst is suggesting should be clearly communicated to the community so everybody knows what we're doing with that grant money and also what the process is to actually get the job done. So I think I would commend we proceed with these changes as the motion says.
Thank you, Councillor Grant. Anyone like to speak against the motion?
No, I'd just like to speak. Just a few clarifying questions first, before we can actually make a decision.
Certainly.
But this grant was originally put in the Victorian state budget of 2022, is that correct?
Yes, it is, Councillor.
So, and it was due, like it was supposed to be 1 year?
When the grant agreement was signed, it was for a 2-year project.
2-year project, so we're pushing it out for another 2 years?
Yes.
So, has DECA then approved this revised scope without a detailed project plan?
No, they haven't approved it. We've alerted them to the fact that we were going to have to extend the time, and they've asked us to submit a formal variation
Which
request.
is part of the recommendation is that it goes to DECA.
So what percentage of the project would require a cultural heritage? Are there any works that can be done without a cultural heritage plan?
That's so we've taken advice from the Wadawurrung traditional owners and the elders in particular, and their recommendation at the moment is that any works that are undertaken on that area because of its cultural significance require a cultural heritage management plan. So we're just working through that advice. At this point, there will be things that will definitely, there will be definitely a cultural heritage management plan. What gets included in the investigation is to be resolved as we resolve the detail of the scope.
So is that, just to clarify, is that scope with what we're moving to DECA for? Is that feedback from DECA?
No.
So if there's any work that's sort of above ground that requires heritage infrastructure, could that commence?
So a good example of that is that because of the delays to the project, we've made a commitment to provide some temporary power to the engine shed on site. And that's type of work because the poles are in place and the wire is well and truly above the ground that we could more than likely commence without requiring a CHMP.
So will that be done before? Can it be done by?
I'm sorry, I can't answer that question. I'm on the PCG, but I'm anticipating it will be done. Yes.
And also maybe, so in the report, is there any reason why there's no milestones or cash flows shown in the report, which can indicate when stage works can be completed?
My understanding, so the PCG, having now revised the scope, are going to go away and do some additional design work and get some procurement documentation together, which will inform a final budget and inform potentially the timelines. We'll also need to negotiate with DECA when we do the grant variation about what milestones they would like to see in any amended or variation to the grant agreement. So there's a combination of a couple of things there that'll go, but I've indicated May 2026 because of some early advice we've had that a CHMP process will more than likely take 18 months. So because we know there's some works that are required, and where a CHMP is required, the 18 months reflects the process for that.
And have we investigated any relationship or any damage to the council's reputation for not delivering a project that will be like 2 years late?
Yeah, we're constantly concerned about that, and we do have the current local state member on or attending the project control group, so we're monitoring that, and we're also in constant discussions with DECA about the project. DECA in particular understand the complexities of this project, and because part of the complexity reflects their implementation of their coastal policy and the introduction of the things like the marine and coastal strategy, which has put additional requirements on all managers of public land to do deeper research and to go through different approvals processes. So most of the parties that are involved understand the complexity, and most of sorry, David, do you have something you want to say?
Continue, Mr. CEO.
That also relates to how we deal with cultural heritage. As we become more sophisticated, as the Victorian government makes more of a move towards treaty and those sorts of issues, we're all being very mindful of making sure that we understand these sites, especially when we already have some understanding that they're very culturally significant sites. So through the coastal policy, through the heritage policy, it's always going to be a complex site. I commend the PCG for getting as far as they've got in the time that they have, because they've resolved and worked through a lot of issues. So,
thank you. Any further questions, Councillor?
No.
Councillors, any further questions for the CEO? No, so we do. So right of reply, anyone? No, Councillor? No? Sorry, Councillor Toll.
Sorry, perhaps not a right of reply, but I'd just direct Councillor Grigard to the project summary and some of the information contained in the dashboard presented with tonight's project update, because while it's not a mimic of the financial milestones that the PCG exchange with DECA. It certainly contains quite comprehensive information about financial milestones, other project milestones, etc., with key summaries of risk, etc.
So would you say that the project wouldn't have been delayed if we actually didn't add in certain items
Point
from
of order,
the original?
Mayor. That was a right of reply. And
No, you don't have a right of reply to the right of reply, but thank you. Any other councillors like to speak to or for or against the motion? Councillor Smith? No? I will put it to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. CEO. Councillors, item 15, Governance and Finance, 15.1, Geelong Regional Library Corporation transition to enterprise model. Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Mayor.
That's right.
That's all right.
That's what happens when staff have a break.
Yes. Councillors will be aware that I provided a briefing on this matter at a recent council assembly. I think the report sets out the process that the point of the process that we're up to now. What we're looking for tonight from the councillors is to note that the Geelong Regional Library Corporation Board has made a recommendation that under the requirements of the Local Government Act 2020 that we move to a company limited by guarantee and as a not-for-profit, and that we note that there's a lot of work now that needs to be done to make that transition. So happy to take the questions, ma'am.
I might get some. We'll move the motion. If I can get someone to second, then if you've got any questions, someone to second that. Councillor Grugal. Any questions for the CEO? No, I'll just add that I represent the borough on the Regional Library Corporation Board, and obviously this has come as part of the new, not so new Local Government Act, and it's been forced upon all the library corporations. A couple of the corporations have already moved across, and which is in the end has probably helped, or will help the library corporation move across as well, because there is some legal work that's already been done by other councils and identities across the state. So we're hoping this could move through seamlessly, but it will take some time. Thank you. We're moving to second. All those in favour? Thank you. Unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. CEO.
The seconder to actually speak.
I do apologise. Did you want to speak?
Yes. No. I think
sorry. Sorry. I haven't moved on to the next item, so.
Saying the regional library is actually, the library service is actually very important to the community, and it's part of something that councils should, it's back. Unfortunately, the state government, over many years have cut their funding, but this is a necessary change and actually sucks out financial resources from councils to actually supply books and services, which is a great shame. But hopefully we can, once this new structure is set up, we can move on and actually grow the library service, especially for our region and within other places in Geelong, to grow stronger. And hopefully, we can have a sustainable library service here for many years.
Yep. Thank you, Councillor Greer, and I do apologise. And just to clarify, the last few years, the state government hasn't cut funding. What they've done is frozen their funding. So the past few years, there's been no increase in funding yet. When you look at places like Geelong and Surf Coast that have had substantial growth, there's been no increase in funding, so therefore council's contribution to the Geelong Regional Library Corporation has increased dramatically over many years now. Thank you, and that we did move and second that and pass that, so my apologies again. Item 15.2, review of council policies. Gihan, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll take the report as read, but we'll provide a very quick update on the changes that we have proposed in these policies. So all of these policies have been reviewed as a part of our regular review cycle. Apart from two changes for 2 policies. All the other changes are very much administrative changes that we have proposed. So in CP 031 rate assistance, we have amended the clause 4.1 to say that council will not charge any interest on outstanding rates if there is a formal payment arrangement in place due to ratepayers facing financial difficulties. So this is one of the recommendations in the draft ministerial good practices in relation to payment of rates and charges. That the good practice guidelines have not been finalized, but I think we are trying to be a bit proactive and then bring in some of those good recommendations in that guidelines. Having said that, at the moment we don't have a single formal payment arrangement in place because of financial difficulties. It doesn't mean that we have some outstanding rates. It has not been really a challenge compared to the challenges that some of the other councils are having with outstanding rates. But still, I think, again, we are bringing this change to our rate assistance policy to provide more opportunities for any rate payers if they face any financial difficulties to come and have a discussion with us to see how we can facilitate arrangement to manage that. The other change, key change, I would say in CPO 44, sales, exchange or transfer of council land, we have proposed a change to the clause 5. So if you look at the clause 5, that says, okay, these are the opportunities where the council would be able to use sales proceed from a sale of land. So there's one in relation to project that will bring some operational cost savings. So this change suggests such sales process can only be used for cost saving project if the savings can be reliably measured and quantified. So those are the key 2 changes that we have proposed across all of these policies. So even our Audit and Risk Committee has reviewed these policies and even their feedbacks have been incorporated. The recommendation is on page 40.
Thank you very much, Gihan. Can I get someone who would like to move the recommendation? Move Councillor Grigal. Someone to second that? Councillor Tolhurst. Councillor Grigal, would you like to speak to the
Just very briefly, but well done for the work for the staff. It's some good tidying up of the policies, and it's good to see that we're taking into account for the rates assistance. I think it's important that we consider it if times are hitting hard for some people with this cost of living crisis that we're in at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Grigal. Would anyone else like to speak to the motion?
Just like to ask a question, please, Gihan, and that's of CP 044, sale, exchange or transfer of council land, and it doesn't speak to a change, but another key principle in the policy, which is around disposing of real estate and the principle that we should maximise the value on disposing of that land unless there is a clearly demonstrated community benefit for selling the land at a lower amount. And I just wondered if you could provide any context or information as to how community benefit would be defined in that instance, or if there are examples of it perhaps from other councils across the state.
I might get the CEO. Yeah.
We've actually got an example in the borough. So the Surf Lifesaving Club is an example in Point Lonsdale where we transferred the land well under value because it meant that the Surf Lifesaving Club could afford to build the new facility and update their facility. So that's a type of thing that we do where you could clearly demonstrate a benefit to the community, and probably a not-for-profit organisation or something like that would be using them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Any further questions for Gihan? If not, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. Thank you very much, Gihan. Councillors, move out to item 16, signing and sealing of documents, 16.1 Bike Park Contract 2023-06. At the ordinary meeting of Council on the 28th of February 2024, Council resolved to sign and seal the Bike Park Contract 2023-06. Council applied the common seal to the Bike Park Contract 2023-06 on the 16th of July 2024. Council is the recommendation that Council notes the use of the common seal on Bike Park Contract 2023-06 on the 16th of July. If I could please get someone, move Councillor Tolhurst, someone to second that one. Councillor Minty, thank you. Any discussion in regard to that one? No? All those in favour? Yep. So moved, thank you. Questions without notice? Item 17.5, question without notice, status update. No question without notice are outstanding. Questions without notice. Councillors, do we have any questions without notice? Yes, Councillor Grant.
Yep, so this question would be to the Manager for Infrastructure. I think it's about environment anyway, which is my portfolio, because I've just been told that branches and canopy have been cut from several Indigenous trees in Crown land on the foreshore. It's in front of numbers 12 and 14 on the Esplanade in Queenscliff. Now, if this has occurred, I haven't checked it, if this has occurred, I'd like to know, was it sanctioned by Council and was there an appropriate permit from DECA, or do we need to apply our vegetation vandalism policy and report the matter to DECA?
Thank you, Councillor Grant. Mr. CEO?
Yeah, Councillor Grant, we haven't heard that, but we'll follow that up, and certainly I don't think anything's come through Council in terms of asking permission or permits issued, so we'll follow that up.
If you maybe just can give the details to the CEO before you leave tonight, that'd be great. Thank you. Any other questions? No? Thank you. Item 18, list of council meetings. We can see the list before you there. 18.2, change of date for the election period caretaker. There is a recommendation. Ms. C, did you want to speak to that? Or I think it was pretty self-explanatory, the change? Yep. Yes, as in you don't want to speak? Or do you want to speak?
No, I was agreeing with you. It's pretty self-explanatory, but I just was conscious that the gallery. When council goes into caretaker period, which is a period of time before the election later this year, the council won't be in a position to make any major decisions. We had previously taken that into account, and so the September meeting was brought forward to the 18th of September. The Victorian Electoral Commission have changed and lengthened that caretaker period, and so we're just adjusting that 18th of September meeting, so it still occurs before caretaker.
Just in case something comes up that we need. Yep. Thank you. Councillors, the recommendation is before you. Can I get someone move the recommendation? Move Councillor Grigau, second Councillor Minty. Any further discussion on that? No? All those in favour? Thank you. So moved. Item 19, closed session of meeting. Recommendation that in accordance with Section 66(1) and 66(2)A of the Local Government Act 2020, the meeting be closed to members of the public for a consideration of the following items. 19.1, event sponsorship and community grants 2024-2025. Can I get someone to move the recommendation? Councillor Grigau, move Councillor Grigau. Second Councillor Tolhurst. All those in favour? Thank you. Thank you everyone in the gallery.